But jumping over to reference collection, this is one of the topics that I get kind of most excited to talk about because I think we at Reviewer have a really powerful way of managing it. But also, I've been asked personally to write a lot of references in my life, and it's not fun. And the reason why I say that is you're always being asked at the very last minute because applicants are procrastinators, right? And so if you're going to ask me to write a reference for you that's due tomorrow night, I'm either not going to do it or I'm not going to put forth the effort and energy that the applicant really does deserve, right? It's also becoming a big problem because historically speaking, references are letters and they're being submitted from scratch. Now, you might have people who are asked all the time who have some type of template that they fill out, but the challenge that we're running into is that a reference being submitted is often a better reflection of the person writing the reference, not about who it's for. So, for example, if I was to submit a reference on behalf of my wife, it wouldn't quite be as good as the one that she submits about me. It's not that I don't love her, she's just a significantly better writer than I am. So, is that a fair representation of her, or is it a representation of me, of the person writing the reference? So, what we want to do instead is kind of two parts. Number one is that we want the reference to come directly from the reference themselves. And when we do that, we need to send them a notification or get them started very, very early in the process. We cannot have them waiting until the last minute to submit it. So we got to get it out the door. Number two is we need to create visibility on how many references have been requested by who and what their progress percentages are. Now, we want to put ownership of this on the applicants to do their own follow ups, but we need to help them out. So we need to have a way to automate that and send reminder messages to the references, letting them know, hey, the deadline for this is the 31st. Don't forget to get it done. Number three is that we significantly need to lower the barrier for them to make it very, very easy. And then, most importantly, number four is that we need to avoid letters. And that's kind of where things get a bit more polarizing. But instead of doing reference letters, let's shift the focus to reference templates. So, what are the 3 to 5 things that you want references to talk about? That way, it's A, easier for them to fill out. And then B, when you go to review these applicants, every single one of them has the same data associated with them because all the references answer to the same 3 to 5 questions. So again, this is a trend that is becoming extremely popular. I think it's quite frankly the only way that references should be done nowadays. So again, what does that look like? So jumping back into reviewer, if you remember, here's our submission form. And there's a component at the bottom where we're requesting references. Now, bigger picture, this can be used for things like parent forms. It can be used for transcripts. There's a lot of other use cases. Ideally, though, that this reference request is done right away in the form, right? So if you have a 10-page application form, toss this on page two. Again, the idea behind that is that the applicant filling out their form puts in the first name, last name, and email address of the person doing the reference. As soon as they progress forward, it can trigger a notification that goes out. So in this use case, I got Michael Scott here, the applicant, who is requesting a reference from Dwight. As soon as this goes out, Dwight will get an email saying, hey, Dwight, you've been requested to submit a reference on behalf of Michael Scott. Click here to do so. Now, as soon as Dwight clicks on that link, instead of going to some type of page to upload a file, Dwight is now going to be brought right into the reference template. So we have a bunch of these already pre-built in Reviewer for people that are interested in it. But again, it's like, what are the 3 to 5 things you want them to talk about? We've started to see a lot of what I call like reference scorecards. So the person submitting the reference is actually scoring the applicant, and that scorecard should kind of align with their application form. Like, what are the mission and vision? What are you trying to collect, right? It could be a combination of both. But as you can see here, as a reference, it's extremely simple, right? They can sit down on their tablets, they can toss in their name, they can answer the 3 to 5 questions. And then once they submit it, and yes, you can absolutely still do letters. Maybe you want to make that optional instead. But as soon as this gets submitted as an operations team, you're not able to manage it. So I know what you're thinking. We just took this out of your control. So you have all these references that have been requested sitting out there in no man's land. You need to be able to know kind of where they're at. So not to get too deep into your dashboards, but at least in Reviewer, we're going to be able to show you like how many references have been requested. Are they done or not done? If they're not done, who's not done, and how far have they made it? So you can create automation that says, every 3 days, send a reminder to the reference until it's done. But also from an applicant's perspective, they can come into their own portal. They can view if the reference is done or not. probably not the content of it, right? We want to keep it private, but at least the status. That way they can do their own follow-ups as well. So great, we show you visibility, but how do you actually visualize what the submitted reference looks like? So if I open up one of my applicants here, I opened up Michael, you'll see a section in Reviewer that shows you who is being requested. So I got two of them, one from Dwight, one from Toby. I can show you the status of it. So if it's done or not done. And then if I press view, I can actually open the content of it. So this is the exact reference that Dwight had filled out for Michael right in Reviewer. Again, if you are collecting things like file uploads, that's totally fine. If I press view, boom, that reference letter actually still shows up embedded right in Reviewer. So, I mean, already we've talked about some pretty cool things where we've got potentially nomination forms, application forms, and references and file uploads all being merged in real time together without really any human involvement whatsoever.